8th grade Bobcats, Mr. Flato here. Welcome back from the long weekend. I hope everybody's rested, rejuvenated, ready to rock and roll on this week of school. On today's Bob lesson, gonna piggyback on something that I did last year and put a new twist on it regarding delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is inspired by a psychologist in the 1960s from Stanford University who put 4-year-olds in a room and gave them a marshmallow and said, if you wait till I come back and you don't eat that marshmallow, I will give you 2 marshmallows. And the really funny videos to watch, I didn't include them in this Bob lesson, but if you get a chance and that's something that you're interested in, go in and watch it. So they talk about delayed gratification and having self-control and the ability to put off short-term reward for a greater long-term reward, and kind of comparing that to, I compared that a little bit to investing money. Last year, if you'll remember, the Bob lesson called the best investment or the greatest investment. I forget what I called it. And today, going to talk about investing in yourself for these next 5 years minimum. Some of them will be 7, 9, maybe 10, 11, 12 years for some of you that have higher career aspirations that require more academic training, and putting in that investment now, delaying that gratification so you can have a bigger gratification when you are an adult. So promise you a new Bob lesson, trying to come through at least every other week with something. Hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you have a great week at Helena Middle School, investing and putting in the time and delaying that gratification for another day. Go out and make it a great week at the Helena Middle School. All right, this week's Bob lesson is going to be titled Delayed Gratification. Special Bob lesson shout out to Miss Virginia herself and Dos Patos. But first, let's be our best this week at HMS. Let's be safe, let's be responsible, let's be respectful, and let's be a learner.
What makes people able to achieve their goals? There could be many answers to this question, but at least one of those factors is undoubtedly self-control. In the late 1960s, Stanford researchers ran a series of experiments to see how children would cope with delayed gratification. This is when you choose to give up an instant reward for a greater future benefit. For example, avoiding that muffin now so you can look good on the beach, or choosing not to play with your friends so you can study for an upcoming exam. So going back to our Stanford experiment, a child, let's call him Timmy, was left alone in the room with 1 marshmallow. They told Timmy that if the marshmallow was still there when the researcher came back, he would get another marshmallow as a bonus. Double the reward just for waiting? Who wouldn't take up that deal? But then again, that's easier said than done. As you can imagine, little Timmy struggled with his inner demons, striving to triumph against temptation. His rational brain was telling him that waiting was the correct choice. At the end of the experiment, some children were able to resist the temptation, while others couldn't stop themselves from taking a bite of that sugary treat. Some cheeky kids even tried to eat small parts of the marshmallow with hopes of not getting caught. Several years passed and the researchers revisited these children to see how they were doing. As it turns out, children who were able to wait longer were more likely to have better academic results, and their parents rated them as having higher tolerance for stress, ability to plan and reason, and exhibit self-control in frustrating situations. Many years later they went back to these same children, but now they were in their 40s. They were tested once more on their willpower and self-control. The results were in. Even after several decades, the people who showed strong self-control as children continued this trend well into their adulthood. Brain scans revealed those who were able to display self-control had more activity in the prefrontal cortex. In a previous video about willpower, I nicknamed this area the human brain. If you want to learn about getting better at delayed gratification, you might benefit from understanding more about willpower. You can click the link at the end of this video to find out more. Getting back on track, if you think about it, the results from this experiment makes perfect sense. If waiting gives a greater long-term benefit, then always choosing the option with the biggest payoff will eventually turn into what other people might call success. So next time, when you're faced with the soul-crushing decision of resisting that donut, or being tempted to procrastinate instead of studying, remember this video and the Stanford marshmallow experiment. Don't be like this guy.
What does this have to do with you guys? I know that you guys aren't investing money right now. I get that you guys are a little ways away from being in the real world, but I wanted to give you an example of how this may look for you, because I wanted to show you that as adults, this is what we do, many of us do, and as kids in middle school, there's a different kind of investment I want to talk about today. So let me ask you a second question. Which would you rather have? If I told you you could have 5 to 7 years of happiness or 60 years of happiness, which would you choose? Now, this isn't a hard question. I'm sure that the majority of you, or hopefully all of you, would choose, well, Mr. Flato, that's a silly question. I would rather have 60 years of happiness. Okay, well, let me put this in terms that you guys can understand. For many of you, you guys are making an investment right now. It's called investing in your education. It's called coming to school every day and working hard. And for many of you, 6th graders through 8th graders, you only have 5 to 7 more years of this to go. And if you put in the time now and you buckle down and you invest in coming to school when you don't feel your best, working hard when you would rather be playing video games or hanging out with your friends at night, buckling down, putting in the time now, investing your time and your energy into your academics and your gaining of knowledge right now, that's going to set you up very nice for the next 60 years of your life. And that 60 years of your life may start when you're 18, it may start when you're 22, it may start when you're 25. It's going to start one of those years, and you're going to be faced with the reality that now I am an adult living in the real world. Some of you are wasting these years right now. Some of you aren't doing your homework. You're showing up to school, maybe getting asked to leave class if you're not being Bob. And I know that as a 11 through 14-year-old, it's probably fun. It's probably more fun to go hanging out with your friends and not doing your homework. And maybe these next 5 to 7 years, that's what you want life to be. But you can't have both. You can't have not doing homework, not being Bob for these next 5 to 7 years, being lazy, and then have a great 60 years after that, because you're probably not going to have a great 60 years after that when the real world kicks in. For many of you that show up every day and you are Bob and you're doing the right thing, you're working hard, you're studying hard, you're being respectful, you're being responsible, you're being safe, and you're being a learner, this 5 to 7 year investment, and maybe for some of you another 2, another 4, another 6 years after that, is going to pay off in huge investment dividends. So something to think about right now. That leads us to this week's quote of the week, another one by Warren Buffett, and this is kind of where I got the title of this Bob lesson. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Something to think about when you come to school every day. When you're working hard and you're being Bob, you are investing in yourself, because you're investing in putting yourself in a great situation for your future. That brings us to this week's Jelly Bean Question of the Week winners. Got Avon Tillo, Kaylee Lewis Christ, Blaine Mayer, McKenna Salway, Amelia Williams, and Destiny the Governor Clements. The answer was Mr. Owl ate my metal worm. If you look at that frontwards and backwards, it spells the same thing. Nice job, crew. All right, this week's Jelly Bean Question of the Week. Using only 2 letters, so you 2 different letters, to fill in the blanks. What is the word below? If you think you own it, the answer, little hint, submit your answer to the Bob Box. Tune in next week, see if you're a winner. All right, let's make it a great week at the Helena Middle School.